All right, everyone, got to talk to the Democratic Party here. Got to let them know something that they need to know. It's very sad news, which is that Elizabethwarren is your front runner now. Keep that in mind as you're going on towards the general election. If you're a Democrat and you're sane, you're probably not too happy about that. The eternal front runner of the Democratic field up until, well, really the last couple of weeks has been Biden. And not only did you have Warren, you also had Sanders throttling Warren, preventing her from being the frontrunner. What's happened, though, in the span of a couple weeks, Bernie Sanders has made several major mistakes, has had his own health issues. He may very well stumble in the next and final debate, which makes him fucked up. Basically, he's toast at that point. The problem is that Biden relies upon the illusion of invulnerability to be invulnerable. So long as people believe he's untouchable, he maintains that core fan base. It is large enough to overwhelm any other two Democrats combined, including Warren and Sanders, second and third place. But that's been broken. There's no illusion of invincibility anymore. He's been continuously behind in polls in several of the starting states. He's never been ahead in New Hampshire. Sanders hasn't. Warren's ahead in Iowa. Arguably competitive now in South Carolina. He's hazarded there. I think in Nevada's the only one he's sort of still holding. Or it may be that she's competitive in Nevada, not South Carolina. I can't remember which one. Anyway, his illusion's been shattered. He's no longer the front runner in every polling cycle. In fact, in the aggregate, he's slowly falling. Warren has spiked again. She's the only one who's managed to grow continuously. She's on a Trump-like trajectory right now. With Bernie Sanders now having had angina or a heart attack or whatever the hell you want to call it, he's been knocked out of the race for at least a few days. He canceled a major ad buy in Iowa. That's highly significant. That's more significant than him canceling all of his events. Him canceling a bunch of physical events to take a few days off to recuperate, that's perfectly normal. For him to cancel an ad buy in Iowa, the only reason to do that is because there's no reason to inject it into the news cycle when already everyone's talking about you. The problem being, what are they actually talking about? Oh, Bernie Sanders has health problems. Oh yeah, that's right, because he's almost 79 years old. That might be a little bit of a problem. So what's happened is that the other two people that were basically able to hold her back are basically out of the running. They'll continue to falter potentially. Harris has already been knocked out completely. She's fundamentally done. Apparently she had a thing the other day where she asked the crowd if they were ready for a Harris presidency, and she got like basically a golf clap from two people in the room. And it was really cringy, and it's just sort of a symbol of her dying campaign. Buttigieg, while he should be, technically in my opinion, he should be the front runner, hasn't gained the traction he needs. What needs to happen to stop Warren is one of two things. Either Biden has a really good fourth debate performance, and preferably Warren doesn't do well, which I don't think is likely. He's been in the middle in all of the debates. He's sort of the jack of all trades when it comes to his debate skills, which, by the way, does not reflect well on people below him in the Dem field. When Joe Biden's a better debater than you, Joe Biden is better at extemporaneous speaking than you, Joe Biden goes off teleprompter and sounds better than you, and you're Julian Castro or you're one of these people, you're fucked. You're not going to amount to anything. You can't even be... He's a geriatric dude with early stage dementia who's had several aneurysms. You can't even beat him in a debate? Basically, you're never going anywhere in politics. I'm thinking of you, Klobuchar. It's really, really funny to see her at 3 or 4% in some of these polls, actually. Or can you imagine Cory Booker? Poor dude. Yeah, early on, he adds a little bit of name recognition. So that's number one. Or Buttigieg has to do so well, in the absence of Warren doing particularly well, that he's able to penetrate into the top of the field. Like he starts stealing the Bernie Sanders supporters and Biden supporters and stuff, and maybe people that don't want the first female president to be a chronic liar, and someone who, they lied about their ethnicity for 50 years. They've been embroiled in scandal after scandal. They suck corporate teat, pretend to have a grassroots progressive campaign, but only because they already had tens of millions from corporate donations in their Senate run. If that's not the Dems' idea of the person they want to potentially make the first female president and or someone they think can beat Trump, which I don't think she can, then they need to get behind Buttigieg. Pun totally intended there. They need to back Pete Buttigieg. I've said this continuously for months. There were three people that stood out in the race. Technically four. Here's who stood out. Julian Castro. Obama-esque in every possible way. But he stumbled. He chose to start rambling in Spanish for no reason. He thought it would impress people. There are other people up on stage that could speak Spanish, probably better than him. He fucked himself. He never gained traction, even though he was a viable candidate. Very early on, he knocked himself out. Gillibrand, which Trump was not joking when he said she was the one he was genuinely afraid of. He would be toast, probably, if he did run against Gillibrand. She is uniquely qualified to potentially do that. She has that appeal. She has that particular style that he would find difficult to counter. But Gillibrand screwed herself. Now she's dropped out of the race. Gabbard stands out to the extent that she has that mimetic sort of energy that almost Trump had early on. She definitely has that. In her case, I think it's a little bit more difficult to make the case that Tulsi Gabbard could actually be a viable presidential contender. But it's perfectly possible in the future she might sharpen herself into that. And then you've got Buttigieg, and he's the only one that's gained any traction. The problem is he already technically peaked when he first got into the race. Oh, wow, a gay candidate? Oh, my God, how wonderful. I think that the Democrats, if they're smart, will try to pressure to get Kamala to get out of the race because she's obviously not viable. Beat up on Kamala Harris, get her to drop out. And then try to get Biden and Bernie Sanders supporters, because Biden and Sanders are no longer strictly capable of winning a general election, even if they were nominated. Take their supporters and try to get them behind Pete as much as possible. You are better off and will fare better with him than with Elizabeth Warren. You still might lose. There's a pretty good chance of it, but I think he would do better. You put Warren up against Trump, I think it'll be a bloodbath. The Democrats have to be... You got to be totally sure about the sort of person you want to put up against incumbent Trump. Or you're going to lose in a spectacular fashion. It won't be close. It'll be a wash. It'll be a slaughter. It'll be like a little bighorn if it's Elizabeth Warren going up against him. It'll be a massacre. The Democrats will take several cycles to fully recover. You want to lose the House of Representatives? This is how you do it, by trying to get Elizabeth Warren jerry-rigged up onto the stage against Trump, where she will freeze like a deer in the headlights the second that she's questioned. The problem with Warren is this. This is her biggest flaw. Warren is decent when it comes to speaking. To me, she always sounds like she's reading a teleprompter, but that's because I studied linguistics. That's because I studied elocution and all of these things. Most people haven't. They don't pick up on that maybe quite as much. Her biggest flaw, though, is just, regardless of her being a decent speaker, when she is cross-examined, when she's challenged, she freezes up. She gets scared, it looks like, almost. You saw this with Charlemagne the God, or Charlemagne the Man, I can't remember which one, when he called her the original Rachel Dolezal. What did she do? She didn't even have a response. She's done this before, when she was questioned on whether, as president, she would allow her VP to have somebody... the son or the relative of the VP serve on an energy board of a foreign company. She said, no, well, maybe, I'd have to look at it. Let me consult my focus group. You want to put her up in front of Donald Trump? Of all people that you could possibly run against, Kamala might arguably be better than that. Because at least she can take the antagonism. She'll just get grumpy about it. Elizabeth Warren will freeze up. And she'll do the literal deer in the headlights look. By the way, Hillary Clinton at a couple of points did this. Those were her weakest moments when she was running against Trump. Warren will do more poorly. But the fact is, like, with Biden and Sanders having health issues, them having the name recognition, Sanders has the genuine grassroots platform, very powerful. Biden has the corporate backing, very powerful. With them faltering, Elizabeth Warren is the only other person in viability level support at the moment. You need an anti-Warren. The only person you can go to at this point is Mayor Pete. I hate to tell the Democrats, but right now a dude who's openly gay but refuses to use that as a platform and isn't even 40 years old is your best chance of saving your political party. Sorry about that, but you made your bed, you have to lie in it now at this point. Trump's presidency is partially a symptom of the Democrats' own dysfunction. They blame everybody but themselves for what they see as a huge problem. Now, I don't see Trump as problematic. I see him as a decent president. But if you think that he's problematic, blame the Dems. Blame the DNC. Blame the Clintonians. Blame Tom Perez. Blame Donna Brazile especially. Donna Brazile with all of her stupid polls and her dumbass one-liners on Twitter. And the Democrats are being dragged kicking and screaming into a new decade, into a totally new political paradigm. Elizabeth Warren? Mein Gott. That's about all. Peace out.